The question no one needed to ask was, did you really think you could lie about Caitlin Clark for a whole year and keep your broadcasting job? Because we just received the answer, Sheryl Swoopes. This is sort of what you get for kind of not jumping on the tide, jumping on the row, jumping on the boat. You were supposed to go and elevate with this whole situation, your broadcasting career, everything, Sheryl. Your podcasting, whatever you do, you're supposed to be elevating, but instead you decided to show hate, very clear hate, right? She was fired from all WNBA broadcasts for the 2025 season, but it looked like you were fired, bro. The firing isn't just about one bad take or one slip up. It was the result of a calculated campaign against the WNBA's newest star, and the league finally decided enough was enough. If you want to know what really happened behind the scenes, we'll break down what happened, how she's handling damage control, and why she ultimately lost her job. Are you ready? Let's go. I won't miss you reporting the games because it was difficult for you to mention. How are you up there, Caitlin Clark? You kept saying things like, oh, the Indiana Fever are doing this, oh, Kelsey Mitchell and the Indiana Fever, oh, Aaliyah Boston, and Kelsey Mitchell and those girls are doing, oh, you have such the hardest time mentioning Caitlin Clark's name. Why I don't get it. I really don't know. Did you know Sheryl Swoopes has a pattern of getting fired? Problematic behavior. Sheryl Swoopes, the basketball coach at Loyola University, is being investigated for allegedly mistreating players. The college coach is also being investigated after reports surfaced that most of her players had left. The warning signs were obvious at Loyola University in Chicago, where Swoopes was fired as head coach in July 2016 after a mass player exodus that should have raised red flags for anyone considering hiring her again. What coach loses 10 out of 12 returning players in a single season? That's not normal turnover. That's a 5-alarm fire in your program. Belittled, humiliated, and made to feel incredibly small head coach since 2013. Last year, 5 of her players reportedly transferred to other programs, and this year, 10 of the team's 12 players are reportedly not planning to return. Former Loyola player Kate Sohn was unreserved in her criticism of Swoopes' coaching abilities. She seems to thrive on drama wherever she goes, and other players described an emotionally volatile environment where Swoopes would cry during practices and games, threaten scholarships, and inappropriately share personal information. Great players don't always make great mentors. The situation involving Lauren Hibbert stands out in particular. According to Hibbert, Swoopes pressured her to sign a medical hardship form, effectively ending her athletic career with false promises that she would remain with the team as a manager. When Hibbert later learned she wouldn't even travel with the team, the betrayal was complete. Former Loyola basketball player Kate Sells says Swoopes makes the players live in fear that she regularly threatens them with losing their scholarships or cutting them from the team. That made it difficult to play. Formal complaints which ultimately led to Swoopes' termination. Fast forward to 2024, and we witnessed the same contemptuous, unhelpful behavior aimed at Caitlin Clark. During her now famous February appearance on Gil's Arena, Swoopes was unable to even clarify basic facts. She stated that Clark was in her 4th season of college, not her 5th, and that she took 40 shots per game, which is completely untrue given that Clark averaged 22.7. These weren't careless errors, rather they appeared to be intended to undermine Clark's accomplishments. Caitlin Clark currently likely shoots over 40 shots every game. Even more telling was Swoopes' contemptuous tone when discussing Clark's record-breaking performances, saying, "So is it truly a broken record? I don't know. I don't think so." When asked about Clark's WNBA potential, Swoopes said, "Will Caitlin Clark come into the WNBA and do what she's doing right now immediately? Absolutely not. Not going to happen." The contempt was impossible to miss. "You asked me back, Caitlin, if you're thinking going to break a record to me. If it's legitimate, you have to break that record in the same amount of time that that player set it." Alright, so if Kelsey Plum set that record in 4 years, then Caitlin should have broken it in 4 years. But because there's a co-year and then another year, you know what I mean. So she's already had an extra year to break that record. So is it really a broken record? The pattern is clear. Whenever someone succeeds or challenges Swoopes, she reacts with animosity rather than support, whether it's college players. This toxic pattern finally caught up with Swoopes at the Dallas Wings, where her commentary became too controversial even for a league that usually stands by its legends. The consistent threads connecting her firing from Loyola to her removal from broadcasting paint a picture of someone who has never learned to adapt or grow from criticism. So what really happened with Dallas last year? You guys might recall that last year when Dallas had to essentially say, "Hey you can't broadcast Indiana Fever game after the little comments and things you had the..." Indeed, I think it was that, and it was Nancy Lieberman, who essentially confronted Sheryl Swoopes about the entire matter, telling her, "Hey, we got to keep it. We got to keep it, keep it about basketball." The Wings broadcast controversy wasn't just about Caitlin Clark, it was about Swoopes creating enemies everywhere. When basketball royalty publicly criticizes one of their own, something extraordinary is going on behind the scenes, and that's exactly what happened when Swoopes found herself in the crosshairs. Stephen A. Smith and Nancy Lieberman, two of basketball's most influential voices, stated, "You know basketball better than me. You know basketball better than any of the pundits. You know basketball better than most of the men that play basketball. There is no way in hell that you just accidentally left Caitlin Clark's name out of that soliloquy that you dropped about the Indiana Fever. Stop it. Stop it." Steve A. Smith never wanted to hold back his opinions, didn't just disagree with Swoopes, he dismantled her credibility on national television. Continually ignoring Clark's contributions to the Indiana Fever's success, Smith challenged, his voice rising with each word, "Do you have any idea how that makes you look? How are you going to ignore Caitlin Clark?" Smith's rebuke was particularly damaging because he implied that Swoopes' silence about Clark was intentional and unprofessional, especially given her basketball expertise, which should have made Clark's impact impossible to overlook. "I knew Sheryl since she was in college when I assisted her with her shoe deal. Nike took her to her first SBS in 1993. I've known Sheryl, I've coached her, and I have a lot of respect for her. I called her when Caitlin was still playing at Iowa and she had just broken Maravic's record, and it was all over the place, as you and I have discussed." Sheryl said, Caitlin was 25 years old, but she was actually 24 years old. She was a fifth-year senior taking 40 shots a game. Her records were illegitimate, but picking a fight with Stephen A. was just the beginning of Swoopes' professional implosion. Nancy Lieberman, a broadcasting colleague and former friend of Swoopes, took things a step further after hearing Swoopes. The fallout was swift and humiliating, and in a turn of events that couldn't have been planned for maximum embarrassment, Lieberman ended up replacing Swoopes on the Dallas Wings broadcasts. This wasn't just a personnel change, it was a public declaration about who had credibility in basketball circles. Lieberman reportedly called Swoopes directly to confront her about the inaccuracies in her statements. The conversation apparently went so badly that Lieberman would later confirm their relationship was pretty much done as a result. The question was about how older people or older players in the league pretty much go about what's going on in the league. And Nancy knows Caitlin Clark is the biggest. She's got the eye, she's got the fans. Let's not try to sink it. Let's try to get on the boat with her and let's grow the game. These high-profile confrontations did more than just damage Swoopes' reputation with fans. They isolated her within the professional world. Her job highlighted just how far Swoopes had fallen professionally. That's what Nancy was all about. Networks and organizations pay attention when people like Smith and Lieberman openly question your integrity. For the Dallas Wings and their broadcast partner, these feuds probably validated what viewers had already complained about. Swoopes had become a liability rather than an asset to their brand. With all this baggage, how is it affecting Swoopes for the 2025 season? God, see, they don't have Sheryl anymore. Sheryl has gone. Nancy still has her job, but Nancy still has her job. They got Sheryl, but She was there last year, she hasn't done anything more. The last nail in Swoopes' broadcasting coffin, however, isn't just that she was kicked out of Fever games. The Wings also completely removed her from their 2025 broadcast lineup. If you look at the statement the Dallas Wings made announcing their 2025 team, you'll notice that Swoopes is conspicuously absent. It appears that the Dallas Wings have excluded Mrs. Sheryl Swoopes from the broadcasting team for the 2025 season. If you recall, Sheryl Swoopes was on the broadcasting team last year, so this wasn't just about protecting Caitlin Clark, it was also about protecting the Wings brand and audience experience. The most telling part of this story may be what happened next. After a year of criticism and controversy, Swoopes appeared on ESPN praising the very player she'd spent months criticizing, saying how much stronger Caitlin got in the off-season. "You know, she was in the gym working on her game," Swoopes gushed, adding, "This Indiana Fever team, they have put the pieces together in this off-season and I'm excited to have them back." She realized that there was a fundamental problem with her broadcasting style that went beyond a single-player rivalry. "Watch to see what they do. The team that I feel made the biggest moves, maybe even the best moves, that would be the Indiana Fever. I think the Indiana Fever went from just being in the playoffs last season to potentially winning a championship. How much stronger Caitlin got in the off-season. You know, she was in the gym working on her game. This Indiana Fever team, they have put the pieces together in this off-season and I'm excited to see what they're going to do." Fans weren't buying this dramatic reversal for a second. Social media exploded with skepticism and mockery. Comments on ESPNW's post ranged from "Oh, how she is changing her mind now. She admitted defeat, and I can't imagine how many months of therapy it took her to say Caitlin's name without a frown. I kept saying it, Sheryl Swoopes, you're going to find yourself out of the media so fast by how you're moving, how you're talking on other players, talking on other people's podcasts." Even Stephen A. Smith couldn't help but poke fun at Swoopes' abrupt conversion, pointing out that her prior silence on Clark's talents seemed deeply. What she doesn't realize is that when she doesn't say what's obvious, it's automatically going to be assumed that it's personal, because when it comes to Caitlin Clark, the same Indiana Fever that Swoopes spent a year criticizing has turned into a legitimate title contender right in front of our eyes. What began with that late season 5-game winning streak when Clark started finding her rhythm was only the appetizer. The main course is being served in 2025, and basketball fans everywhere are taking notice. Pundits are now ranking them as at least third best. Indiana's front office has pulled off perhaps the most impressive roster transformation in recent WNBA history. The additions of 3-time champion Natasha Howard and 2-time champion Dana Bonner aren't just smart moves, they're the kind of strategic chess pieces that elevate a team from playoff participant to championship threat. Bonner, despite being 36, is still a force, averaging 15.6 rebounds, 2 assists and 1 basket per game. The Indian Fever are that league's golden destination, and I can't help but laugh at the fans, internet users and media commentators who said that nobody wanted to play in Indiana. In addition to his 2 blocks in 40 games with Connecticut last season, Howard is a former Defensive Player of the Year who brings defensive excellence to the Fever's young core. Not to mention Sophie Cunningham, Sydney Coulson and Brianna Turner, who round out a strong bench. What makes these veteran acquisitions so great is how well they fit around Clark, Boston, Hull and Mitchell. The Fever's foundation of young talent needed exactly what Howard and Bonner provide: championship experience, defensive versatility, and the leadership that only comes from having been in high-pressure playoff situations. The Indiana Fever are the most popular team in the WNBA, and it is good for the team's trajectory going into year 2. The GOAT Caitlin Clark signed my jersey. She is so happy that I'm crying. This is the best day ever. The Caitlin Clark effect seems to be crazier than year 1. I love watching her score and everything about her. They went above and beyond just to watch her play here. This is great news for women's basketball in general.
She just brings so much passion to the game. I believe the Indiana Fever went from being in the playoffs last season to possibly winning a championship, and I'm excited to see what they're going to do. Recently, Swoopes herself couldn't deny the Fever's potential, saying, "The team I feel made the biggest moves, maybe even the best moves, that would be the Indiana Fever." Those final 13 games of 2024 when the Fever went 8-5 weren't a fluke. It was Clark finally adjusting to the pro game. With a full off-season to build strength and hone her game, we're likely seeing just the beginning of what she can accomplish at the professional level. The championship window for Indiana isn't just opening, it's being thrown wide open, with Clark surrounded by Boston's interior dominance, Mitchell's scoring punch, Hall's hustle, and now the championship DNA of the new free agent acquisitions the Fever have constructed. You know something special is brewing when your harshest critic suddenly starts praising you. You add the OG Dana Bonner, who plays both ends of the floor and is a competitor, Natasha Howard, another OG who will bring the defensive presence, and you're bringing back Aaliyah Boston, who keeps getting better every year. A roster that can compete with any team in the league. The contrast is stark. While Swoopes is frantically attempting to salvage her broadcasting career through transparent damage control, the Indiana Fever are creating something genuine and possibly historic. While she watches from home, the same player and team that Swoopes spent a year trying to destroy may just be lifting a trophy. We went from the locker room, which is in ruins, to the OGs that they brought in, the OGs who said, "I don't even in the locker room." The WNBA is finally putting accuracy and growth ahead of defending legends whose actions undermine the sport's popularity. While Swoopes fumbles with her sudden praise of Clark and the Fever, the basketball world has moved on. The WNBA's unprecedented growth demands voices that elevate rather than diminish its rising stars. In the end, true basketball legends are measured not just by their on-court accomplishments but by how they perform off the court. What we're witnessing with Swoopes firing isn't just workplace drama. They inspire the next generation, something Swoopes obviously didn't understand. Share your thoughts about Swoopes' dismissal in the comments section below. Like, subscribe, and enable all alerts so you don't miss anything. Click the video on the screen and we'll see you in the next